I actually want to have a quick little political conversation about the Charlie Kirk assassination, which was unfortunate. I didn't enjoy that. Nobody wants to see somebody get shot. But there was an interesting video I saw. I literally saw it this morning, and and it was a brother who was basically explaining why he felt that Charlie Kirk couldn't be a racist. And the reason he said Charlie Kirk couldn't be a racist is because Charlie Kirk apparently, how many of y'all knew this? Did y'all know that he hosted a Black Leadership Summit every year? Did y'all know that? There was a Black Leadership Summit every year, and he'd invite a bunch of Black conservatives together, and they would get together and, I guess do what Black conservatives do. I've never been to anything like that, but and there's nothing wrong if people go to these things. It's totally up to them. And there were all these really interesting pictures of him with lots of Black people in those pictures. And so according to this Black man that I was listening to, he said, see, this proves Charlie Kirk can't be a racist because he showed a text correspondence where they went back and forth, and Charlie Kirk said, "Are you coming to the BLS?" And the guy said, "I can't afford it." And Charlie Kirk said, "Don't worry, we have scholarships. We'll pay for you to come." And so he says, if this man was a racist, he wouldn't have paid for me to come to the Black Leadership Summit, right? Which is interesting, right? That's an interesting conversation, interesting debate. So here's where I'm going to talk about this, and I hope you can give me a quick confirmation that if I accidentally say something that is offensive or something that we can just still love each other. I just want to make sure we do it because I know politics is so divisive and so crazy in the Black community, and really in all communities. I mean, America's political divisions are going to destroy it. So let me know. Give me a quick yes if it's okay to just have this quick conversation because it does relate to economics, and I want to just make sure we're clear that look, I ain't trying to like disrupt any political beliefs you have. Some of y'all feel really strongly about this one way or the other. Some of y'all straight up MAGA, some of y'all are super liberal, and I respect all of that. And if you know anything about the Black First B1 philosophy, B1 means that you're Black first. And so if you're conservative, you're Black first. If you are liberal, you're Black first. If you're gay, you're Black first. If you're straight, you're Black first. If you're male, you're Black first. If you're female, you're Black first. And that means that we want to be Black before we start becoming all these other things. Because what happens is, economically speaking, tribalism is a wonderful tool of a capitalist colonizer to divide and conquer. That the more divided you are, the easier it is to control you. So effectively, I don't want you to be divided. I want you to find the things you have in common. I don't want you to find something to argue about. I want you to find something to hug each other about. I don't want you talking about why you don't like somebody. I want you to talk about why you can love somebody. Okay, because love is the great the great glue that can make any community great. Okay, so let's build everything on love, man. Let's not get into like me explaining to you why you're wrong and Trump is the devil or Biden's and Harris are the devil. I don't like those conversations, honestly. So here's what was interesting about the Charlie Kirk thing, and why I felt compelled to talk about this. It reminded me of capitalism a little bit because first off, let me ask you this: yes or no? How many of you would agree with me if I was to say that, white men have been engaging with Black people for hundreds of years in a very direct way? Like there's a familiarity between whites and Blacks in this country. You go back to the slave plantation, you always had the master who would talk to maybe dozens of Black people every day, right? Why? Well, because those were his workers. That was, these were kind of his people. And so Black people have always been a wonderful commodity for the benefit of other communities. We've always been that, right? So he had to talk to the nanny about breastfeeding his babies and cooking breakfast. He had to talk to the field hand about making sure that the corn got shucked that morning, and he had to talk to the overseer who made sure he kept all the Negroes in line. He had to go, So this idea that racism can't exist in a room where a white man is reaching out to a Black man and offering him something, that's just a falsehood. Because what I really saw was in this poor guy, he was saying, this is why Charlie Kirk couldn't be racist. And again, I'm not here to tell you if he was or not. I'm not here to tell you you can make that decision on your own. I don't know what was in the man's heart. I just know he had some pretty strong opinions about certain things. And if I disagree with you, that I don't get offended by disagreement. I remember I come from academia. We all disagree with each other all the time. Your best friend will tell you that your research paper is garbage, and you then have to defend your point of view. You debate, right? You don't beat each other up. You don't cuss each other out. You don't walk out of the room. You debate and you say, well, here's another perspective. Here's another way to look at it. Or actually, what I did was, yeah, I shifted the methodology and made sure that we ran the multivariate analysis that was going to give us the time series that would allow us to understand the correlation between this. Like you debate things, right? We don't, for some reason, debate's kind of lost, and it's very sad. And so, anyway, with Charlie Kirk, what was fascinating to me was I said, "That's so interesting. This black guy really feels that because he invited you to the Black Leadership Summit and then offered to pay for you to come, that you say this is why he's got to be good white folks, right?" Um, and again, I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm just saying that's not proof. Why is that? Well, because first off, you would ask a question like, why in the world would Charlie Kirk have a Black Leadership Summit? Do you think that he had a Black Leadership Summit because he just cared so deeply about the well-being of the Black community? What do y'all think? Do you think that he was like just, gosh dang it, we got to make sure that Black people are doing well. By golly, we got to make sure that their families are together and that they're treating each other well. We got to stop the black on black crime. Not only was that not the case, but why would that even be his job? Taking care of your community is not someone else's job. Taking care of your community is your job. So I'm not only am I saying that Charlie Kirk wasn't doing this for the benefit of black people, he was, but he shouldn't be doing it for the benefit of black people because he ain't black. Like that's so if Charlie Kirk hosts a Black Leadership Summit, that's very different from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan hosting a Black Leadership Summit. Those two are not the same. If Donald Trump has a Black Leadership Summit and I have a Black Leadership Summit, they have two different objectives and agenda. If Joe Biden has a Black Leadership Summit, and somebody that you respect has a Black Leadership Summit, someone from your community, it's just not the same thing, right? So, or Dr. Claude Anderson has his Black Leadership Summit ain't gonna be the same as Joe Biden's, right? So, hosting a Black Leadership Summit does not on any level indicate a concern for the Black community. Um, what's interesting is that sometimes we don't know the difference between um, someone leading you versus someone just managing you. By leadership, I mean someone says things to you that's going to empower you to do something that's going to truly be to your benefit, versus somebody who says, I want to pull you all together and package you all up so I can deliver you for a bigger purpose. Here's the deal. When you talk about, just to speak specifically about Charlie Kirk had one job and he did it very well. His job was to galvanize people for the causes that he believed in, and those causes happened to funnel right into the MAGA movement and Republican interests. And I'm not even mad at him for doing that. If that's what you really believe, then do it. If that's your thing, do your thing, right? And so Turning Point USA, his organization, their job was to gather as many people as possible across the spectrum and get them all lined up, so they could all be a part of getting certain people elected into office. That's what the goal was, right? So, for example, out of this Black Leadership Summit, that's where Blexit came from. Anybody remember Blexit, or the black people exiting the Democratic Party, right? So from what I understand, it wasn't as if there was some sort of movement to say, let's galvanize 10,000 black men to all go into the black communities and stop the violence. Or let's do like the Million Man March. Let's get a million black men together and women as well, and let's make a commitment to make sure that black people are better off, that we have stronger families and more wealth, right? So what I want you to see is, and this relates to capitalism as well, because it reminds me of the relationship between the employer and the employee. Sometimes the employer will connect to the employee, and the employee will say, gosh, thank you so much for calling me back. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of your organization. Thank you for my paycheck. And then the employer will compensate the employee, and the employee will literally form what's the word, an emotional relationship with the employer. You ever seen that? You ever see people that just love the company they work for? That they really like would like fight and die for this company. Like they just they'll wear the little Walmart t-shirt and just get it tattooed on their arm or something crazy. Because they're just so down and enthusiastically committed to the employer. And I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that in most cases, the employer he don't love you like that. The employer is not he loves one group. The corporations love one group of people, and the group of people they love are the shareholders. They do not love the employees. They're dispensable. They're disposable. They do not love the customers. They just need to get something from them. They do not love the suppliers even. They do not really love the environment. They don't love the people that work for the company, the managers even. There's not love there. It's sort of a professional detachment that says we're cool as long as I can benefit from you. As long as I can get something out of you, then we're good. But the minute I can't get something out of you, then you're gonna have to go. Like if you drop dead at your desk, sure, I'm gonna do something nice. I'm gonna call your family and or hold a little 10-minute vigil, moment of silence at the job and whatever, have some coffee cake that morning or whatever. But I'm not but I'm gonna replace you the next day because I gotta have somebody in that job. When I took my job at Syracuse University, I was negotiating with Syracuse and we hadn't decided if they were going to hire me or not. They hadn't made the decision. And then suddenly, fate pushed the negotiation heavily in my favor. The chairman, his name was Al Young. He was a great guy. He called me and he said, "We need you. I think we need you more now than ever." And I was like, "Oh, you need me more than ever? It's nice to be wanted. Cool." And do you know why they needed me more than ever? It was because the person that was supposed to teach my classes, he died in his sleep that week. He literally died in his sleep that week. And so it's not funny. I mean, it was kind of scary. He's a hardworking guy, regular dude. He just didn't feel bad, laid down. Next thing you know, he never woke up. So they needed me because this team member had died, and they're like, we need somebody to do this job. So they gave me the dead guy's office, and I was really fascinated by how the world keeps spinning after you're dead. Like, we think we're so important. Ain't none of us that important. I know I'm not important. If any of us drops dead, the world will keep spinning. Things will keep happening the way it was going to happen for the most part. Certain people will remember you, right? Your goal is to have some impact on some group of people, such that at your funeral they're going to say, "Gosh, I'm going to miss this person." And they left a void that will never be filled, right? So if we're lucky, we have a little bit of that, but for the most part, the world's gonna keep on spinning. And I remember they gave me this guy's office, and I was stunned by the fact that nobody came in and even cleaned his office out. Every file that he was working on, every project was all in the file cabinet. The computer was still on. It was like there's a half-written email that he was finishing, and I was able to, and then I was like 31 years old, so I got nosy. I was like, I wonder which one of these sons of bitches didn't want to hire me because I wanted to look and find the meetings that they had to talk about whether they wanted to hire me or not. So I got some good data off of that. So I'm up here reading the emails. Oh no, he didn't. Oh no, what? I didn't know this was going on. Anyway, but it was wild to me. I said, ain't nobody coming in here to even check to see if his stuff is all packaged up. And it's like, no, the world keeps spinning. And here this guy was a highly accomplished professor. He was really good at what he did, very productive. Um, and that taught me a lot about how life works, you know, when I took over the dead guy's office. And so if I become the dead guy, somebody will take my office. And in fact, when I made my estate plan for the Black Business School, I just told everybody. Everybody thought I was dying or something because I was so obsessed with talking about it. But I said, no, y'all need somebody to take the dead guy's office. If Boyce is gone, you need some stuff up in here that's gonna replace me. In fact, I hope I can get this from y'all right now. Give me a yes. If something happens to me, if this is my last conversation I ever have with you, will y'all please like keep all this going? Like whatever this means to you, your choice, of course, but please promise me you won't let this die. Because we know, and I'm not saying do it for me, do it for you, do it for us, do it for this. Like we know wealth matters, right? We know that Black families matter. We know that we want our community to be better. We've got momentum going. We're getting the job done. We're making it happen. Right? And the thing about it to me is it's unfortunate how when you've had certain movements in the black community that were legitimate and very strong, when one person got assassinated, a lot of momentum was kind of killed behind that. And I personally just think that that's unfortunate, right? I don't want them to think that if they come and poison my oatmeal and make sure I don't breathe the next day, that all this is going to stop, because we put some work into this and we got some momentum. Okay. And all of you, my goal has always been to train you and support you in your quest to independently be able to keep these things going, right? So that you don't really necessarily need someone to tell you that wealth matters or these basic things or how to even invest in the stock market, stuff like that. You kind of know these things, right? So, all right, so perfect. Thank you very much for saying that. That means a lot to me. So with Charlie Kirk, let's circle back on the Charlie Kirk thing. Um, Charlie Kirk holding a Black Leadership Summit. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of McDonald's. So if I have um when I went to China, if you go to McDonald's in China, you'll notice that they'll have the regular stuff, the Big Mac and the Quarter Pounder and all that, but it'll always have like a twist. Like in China, they might sell something weird, like some weird ice cream or something, like some ice cream flavor that you didn't know existed at the McDonald's, right? Because it's like Chinese, or the colors would be different, right? But it's still a McDonald's, right? Or if you go to, I think it was like, if you go to like Pizza Hut, they'll have pizza with like shrimp on it or something, right? And Pizza Hut, I remember, was like a fancy restaurant. It was like it was almost like you thought you were going to a five-star restaurant. I never saw Pizza Hut like that. In fact, I had a student that I had who lived in China, and she was showing me around Shanghai, and I said, "Oh, Pizza Hut's a pretty fancy place here. Like they had like a waiting list and a maitre d and piano music and chandelier like in the Pizza Hut, right?" And I said, and she really thought it was a big deal that we were going to pizza. In fact, all my students in China, one day I told them, I said, "Hey, we're gonna have Pizza Hut for lunch. So if you guys want to stay and eat lunch here, I'm gonna order some pizzas." And do you know every single student stayed to eat Pizza Hut because apparently that was like a big deal. And I said to her, I said, back in the state, I was single at the time. I said, back in the States, if I took a woman to Pizza Hut on a date, she wouldn't want to date me anymore. And she goes, I'll never forget it. She goes, Dr. Watkins, in Shanghai, if you take girl to Pizza Hut, you will get the girl. I thought that was so funny. I was like, I'll be damned. So anyway, yeah, it was an interesting experience, right? So so long story short, Pizza Hut, in China is different from the Pizza Hut in the United States. But it's still Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut in France is different from the Pizza Hut in the United States, but it's still Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut in Japan is different from Pizza Hut in the US, but it's still Pizza Hut. And so you got to know the difference between a Japanese Pizza Hut versus an authentic Japanese restaurant. That's what I think about when I think about Charlie Kirk holding a Black Leadership Summit. Um, a Black Leadership Summit hosted by the Republican Party is still the Republican Party. They're still there on behalf of the Republican Party. A Black Leadership Summit hosted by the Democratic Party is still done on behalf of the Democratic Party. A Black Leadership Summit hosted by Black people who care about the Black community is a completely different entity, right? So in many cases, I think that sometimes our lack of economic self-esteem, if you will, can cause us to believe that every interaction we have with a different party is that's equivalent to a partnership. That's not the same. So a partnership is when you and I get together and we do business, and I have my interest, you have your interest, and I make sure that my interests are taken care of, you make sure your interests are taken care of, and everybody wins. That's not typically what Black people are receiving when we get integrated into white-owned institutions. It's not a partnership. It becomes a subordinate, subservient relationship. That was what the problem with integration. Integration itself is not a bad idea. Integration itself is a beautiful thing. It's like marriage. It's like any other partnership. I mean, global trade is nothing more than economic integration across the globe. but integration must be done in a way where every party's interests are fully represented. And so if a Charlie Kirk and the MAGAs are hosting a Black Leadership Summit, do you really think that that's being done on behalf of the Black community? Like, do you really think that that's the ultimate goal? Do you really think so? Let's say I come up there and I say, I was at this summit and I was so inspired that I decided I want to go support Kamala Harris because I just think that's really going to be great for Black people. What do you think they're going to say? No, no, all roads must lead to the Republican Party. Same thing is true if the Democrats are hosting the summit. All roads must lead to you being a Democrat. Like you're not a Japanese restaurant, you're a Japanese version of an American restaurant. Do you understand? That's very different from being an authentic, independently owned Japanese restaurant. So when you think about employment, and this is what I call economic self-esteem. I wrote a little bit about it in my book, The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power, and I'll talk about it very quickly now. When your economic self-esteem is low, you're seeking integration by any cost, by any means necessary. Any price you must pay to be invited into the group, you will pay that price because being invited into the group heightens your self-esteem because you don't have it, you can't generate it on your own. So when I say, "Hey, mama, look at me. I'm an employee at Google. Hey, mom, look at what I am now. I just got hired by Microsoft, right? So when the guy says, this is why Charlie Kirk is a good guy and he can't be a racist because he invited me to be part of his Black Leadership Summit, which made me feel great. Now look at me, look at how successful I am, because now I'm a prominent Black conservative. That's not the same as actual Black empowerment. That's you've been sort of what's the word, recruited to be part of someone else's army, right? And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, if you're truly a conservative, then fine. I mean, be part of the conservative army, or if you're liberal, be part of the liberal army. But the problem with that, though, is that you'd be hard pressed to find any scenario where the conservative or liberal armies have actually truly addressed the real issues in the Black community and truly elevated the condition of the Black community in a meaningful way. I have a hard time imagining, again, if you want to go Charlie Kirk with it, I have a hard time imagining a guy who says that, I wonder if the Black pilot is qualified as being somebody that's any sort of beneficiary to the Black community, or someone who says, I don't understand why reparations are necessary, right? It sounded to me like he was defending his own, which again, I'm not mad about that. I'm only mad at people who don't understand what's really going on right there, right? And so ultimately, my question is, who's defending you? Who's elevating you? You go back to the economic angle of it. When you go work for people, which is fine, and you have a whole community where we're trained to have low economic self-esteem, which to me basically means that you believe basic things like, I ain't nobody until white people acknowledge me. Or I started at the bottom and now look at me now. And I'll say, well, what has changed about you? You're still the same height. You were 5'9" 10 years ago. Now you're still 5'9". So what heights have you risen to? Well, back then I was just a regular guy. Now I've got a degree from Brown University. Okay, you got labeled by white people. Good for you. I got a job. I'm an executive vice president at JP Morgan Chase. Okay, another label. Good for you. Right. And I got employee of the year at JP Morgan, and I sat next to Jamie Dimon. Okay, another label, another slap of validation. Good for you. And look at my Mercedes. And okay, so you spent money on this nice car. Okay, another label, slap. Good for you. And I'm wearing Gucci, and then okay, another label. Good for you. And what I'm really seeing, honestly, and I'm not making fun of anybody when I say this. This is controversial. Some people don't even get where I'm coming from. But I'm looking at that and I'm saying, man, you could have saved yourself a lot of time and energy and actually been a greater asset to your community if your self-esteem was high enough that you didn't need any of these labels to validate you in the first place. All the time, money, and energy you spent purchasing and trading to obtain this validation could have been used to pour into the assets around you. Right? So if I grow up and I say, let's say I'm raised in a way where I don't need those I look at the Mercedes and I say, yeah, I don't need to go spend $100,000 on the car to feel good about myself. So I got 100,000 in wealth that I'm going to now put toward my family. Or I look at the big fancy university and I say, I'm not going to go give $250,000 of my wealth away to get this degree. I'm going to get training though. I'm going to learn how to do something, but maybe that's not what I need. So then I got another $250,000 going into my family trust. And no, I don't really want to work for JP Morgan Chase. I'd rather start a business with my dad, or my mom has a business and I want to go and pour into my mom's business and make that into the next JP Morgan Chase if I can, right? So now what's happened also is I've made another multi-million dollar investment in my family, because instead of giving $10 million worth of labor to a company, because your time is worth money, your time is money, your attention's worth money. Instead of me giving $5 to $10 million worth of labor to this company, I'm giving all that to my family. Do you understand? I'm giving that to my family because my family is the brand that I value, right? Like for example, part of one of the brands I created was this little panther on my chest. That's my grandmother, and that's the Black Business School. I pour millions of dollars worth of time, energy, and money into the Black Business School because, in my mind, this panther is more important than the Harvard logo. It's more important than the Nike logo. It's more important than any other logo, right? And so ultimately, what I would say to you is, you want to think carefully about what you're pouring into, right? Are you pouring into things that are going to benefit you and the people that you love? If you're truly pro-black, are you simply trying to be a black face in a white space? Or are you trying to be a black face that's empowering black spaces? Because and the reason this is important is because for because one of the puzzles that people cannot understand, one of the puzzles that people cannot solve, and many if they haven't thought about it, is they cannot figure out why we've had so many seemingly successful black people, but you don't have a successful black community. You have so many people that are famous athletes and entertainers. You have a lot of people that are black executives at major corporations. Am I lying or am I telling the truth? Right? You've got so many black people that got good fancy jobs, that have gone to the best universities, that have got the best credentials. If you've got all this black success, then why the hell is your community broken down and suffering? That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. I mean, really, if we're as successful as we think we are, you should never you should have to work hard to find a black neighborhood where people are struggling. You really would. I mean, seriously, all that success you got, all those credentials, all that worldwide fame from your celebrities, you shouldn't have a hungry person in your whole community. How the hell does that happen? In fact, and what's crazy is it's not even a matter of having a few people suffering. It's like there's a lot, there's masses of people suffering. So where that comes from is that what you define as success to some extent is very symbolic success. A black person getting elected to office is very symbolic. It's not truly substantive. The substantive power is the power that you feel even if you see nothing flashy around it. Substantive power is when it's like dark energy in the universe. I don't know if y'all know. Did y'all know that like 98% of the energy in the universe cannot be detected by any instrument that known to man? Did y'all know that? How many of y'all knew that? It's called dark energy and dark matter. It's kind of crazy. And it translates, again, I'm not a physicist, but it translates into dark matter. Like they're literally saying like literally 98%, I think they said it precisely, 98.6% of the observable universe is not observable. Right? Like we can't see it, we can't measure it, but you know it's there because they the way they know it's there is they find it in the movements of the galaxies and stuff. They're like, there's some energy in here that's moving all this stuff around, and you can call it God if you want to, right? Because it's almost like that, right? But something's moving all this stuff around, and we don't know where it's coming from, right? So to me, that's power. In its power, it's not flashy power. It's not some shiny Negro up on a stage. It's not some guy that got a good job. It's not somebody that's on TV. It's like the people that are behind the guy that are controlling everything that don't even want to be seen. Ain't got to be seen. I ain't got to be flashy to have. If I got real power, not only do I not need you to know I have power, I'm not going to tell you I have power. I'm going to lie to you. If you say, "Are you the powerful force that's moving everything?" I'm going to say, "No, man. I'm just chilling, man. I'm just here. I'm just watching the show like you, bro." Like that's power. That's what real power ends up looking like. That's what power is, right? The person that's really the boss never wants you to know that they're the boss. If somebody's fighting really hard to tell you that they're the boss, then a lot of times they either aren't the boss or they don't have enough self-esteem to accept the fact that they're the boss. They're compensating for something. Either way, though, this is what how power tends to work. So I think that we should have more dark power in the world and in our community. If you look at, for example, the way the Zionists operate, the Zionists, if you whenever they would say, whenever you say like, well, you know that 95% of all the media outlets in America are run by people from the Jewish community, they'll be like, that's anti-Semitic. You can't say that. Don't you dare. We don't, you act like we own all the banks. But you do own the banks. No, we don't. Hey, they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that. So what I'm saying is, I'd like to see dark power actually happen in the community, the real substance. And I think that that's going to require us to have consciousness. This is why I call this class financial consciousness, because consciousness allows you to not just look at the surface level indicators of your success, like, oh, I got this job, or I got this degree, or I got this award. It goes deeper. It looks at impact and says, well, what is my real impact? What am I really actually, how am I really moving the needle? And you can pick different measuring sticks. Like I always tell you guys, I'm always like, well, I really want to know that you have more money in your pocket. Do you have more money in your pocket? And when y'all say yes, I'm like, okay, great. We're having an impact. People's lives are better because I know your life is always better when you got an extra $1,000 in your bank account, extra 5,000, 10,000, whatever. Good. That's one measuring stick, right? Which is very different from me just saying, "Hey, I have 1 million followers on TikTok and 100,000 people saw my video. So what? What difference does that make? Who cares? Did that change anything?" And if the answer is no, then I think you got to understand what power really means and what that looks like. So when I think about that whole thing, let's circle back with Charlie Kirk and the Black Leadership Summit, just to make it plain for those who might struggle with what I'm saying here, because I know sometimes I talk around in different areas and I don't want to confuse anybody. Um, that Charlie Kirk hosting a Black Leadership Summit on behalf of the Republican Party is not the same as meaningful, relevant leadership coming out of the community that actually is designed to benefit the Black community. And it's very similar to the economic system. A company hiring lots of Black people doesn't imply that Black people are gaining any power. We have millions and millions and millions of Black employees. We've always had Black people working for white people. We've always had Black people that have fancy, important positions working for white people. What really moves the needle is things like Black-owned businesses or strategic partnerships where everybody benefits. The employer-employee relationship is one that's designed to primarily benefit the employer. And so if you get recruited to be a part of something, just like with integration, this is my issue with the civil rights movement, was you were looking to integrate Black people into broader society, but you didn't have the consciousness to negotiate the deal. You didn't stop and say, well, what are we really getting out of this? How is our community going to be better off because of this? And Martin Luther King started to gain that consciousness right before he died. He was a very young man when he died. He was 16 years younger than I am right now. So he was a kid basically in my book. And so Martin Luther King, if you remember, right before he died, what did he say? He said, I fear that I'm integrating my people into what? What did he say? He said, I fear I'm integrating my people into a burning house. And I interpret that to mean that he was gaining some consciousness. He wasn't just doing it, he wasn't just doing something to do it anymore. He was saying, well, why am I doing this? What's at the end of this? So when you're integrating into businesses or you get invited to come work for people, or you have the Jackie Robinson moments, and you're so excited about the job, you're so excited about the acknowledgement, you're so excited about the visibility, but you forget about the long-term ramifications of that particular decision. That's how communities get lost. When in the economic game, man, you gotta play chess. You cannot be playing checkers, because checkers means thank you, sir, for giving me the job. Chess means, well, wait, once I take this job, where's my equity ownership in this business? Where's how's my wealth going to grow? Like, where am I going to find myself in a better economic position 10 or 15 years from now? Where am I going to be able to develop systems and processes that are going to benefit people outside of myself? Because that's how wealth actually gets built. And one sign that we still have work to do in this area is I want you to think about how many people you know who have been working their asses off for 30 years and are still struggling financially. How is it that you've been working since the 90s and ain't got no money? That's a lot of freaking work. You put in between getting up and going to work, coming home, going to bed, and all that, you probably spend 50 hours a week on your job for 50 weeks a year. If you take 2 weeks of vacation, that's 2,500 hours a year. 2,500 hours a year times 10 years is 25,000 hours in a decade. If you work for 40 years, that's 100,000 hours of labor. 100,000 hours. So I want you to ask yourself, what if I took just 1,000 of those 100,000 hours and I put that into myself? I mean, processes. How crazy is it that you have people that have put 100,000 hours of labor into their job, into somebody's business, somebody's movement, or Democrat, Republican, whatever, and they themselves and the people around them have not seen an elevation in their condition. And that's not logical. You worked really hard. You put a lot of energy into that thing. How in the hell is it that you have worked that hard and none of those benefits have accrued back to you? Do you follow what I'm saying? It's like, and it comes from a lack of consciousness in many cases, not making fun of anybody, because we're trained to think this way. We're trained to be simple-minded. That's why complex thinkers aren't really embraced, I think, in society. I don't know, unless they're spitting out a conspiracy theory or something. I could probably do that, but that's not the goal. The goal is to help you understand what's it's almost like I'm putting all this energy, or I'm taking all my water and putting it through this pipe, and I'm not thinking about where the pipe is going, right? And there's somebody on the other end of the pipe who's receiving everything that I'm putting into it. So their coffers are getting full. My coffers are being emptied because I'm drained. I'm drained from working every day. I'm stressed out. I'm tired. I can't spend time with my kids. My family gets drained because I'm spending so much time at work that my children don't see me. My marriage fell apart because my spouse says you're working too much, and maybe I didn't even have kids because I was so committed to my career, right? These are all these mind tricks that are played on us, right? And then so you're 50, 60, 70 years old and you're depleted, you're tired, and you have nothing. All that energy put out, energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? So where did it go? Where's I mean, you ain't got it, but you know it was there because you gave it out. You gave so much. Who took your shit, man? That's what I want to know. Who took it from you? What happened? Does that make sense? I don't Let me know if you get what I'm saying. Like, do you think that maybe us figuring out where it went, that is the mystery of the freaking century. If you solve that mystery, then you solve a lot of issues because then you can change something. You can say, okay, wait a minute, this don't make no sense. Okay, I done gave 18.5 billion kilowatts of energy toward achieving some goal, being a part of somebody's system, and none of those benefits came to me or my family. I'm dying with nothing. I don't have anything to leave behind. I don't even have the basis. I'm not a homeowner. I don't own a business. I don't have any wealth. My stock portfolio is on fumes. Um, how did that happen? And if you solve that mystery, if you take time to really process that, then what that'll do is that'll shift how you move a little bit, right? You'll say, okay, I need to think this thing all the way through to make sure that anything I put energy into is going to benefit me. See, these are not complex lessons. These are not complex ideas. Do you know my mother, rest her soul, she used to say to me, I remember her saying, Coco, she said, anything that you put energy into is going to pay off. And for what, and it's a simple statement. Anybody could make that statement, but it meant a lot to me. I don't know why. It resonated with me. Okay, if I want this to go better, I just got to put more energy into it. If I stay with it, things will get better. And I would add on to what my mother said by going that extra step to say that anything you put energy into consciously, meaning I'm thinking this through, that's going to really pay off for you in a significant way. So what does that mean? Well, if I've got an extra, every year I have 8,760 hours of time. I get 87,600 hours in a decade to do stuff. A third of that time is going to be spent sleeping. So that whops off about 30,000 hours. But I got about, 60,000 hours or whatever, or 55,000 to do stuff with. I'm gonna budget that time just like I'm budgeting money. I mean, I want you to think about this. If you value time the way you value money, and let's say your time is worth $50 an hour, and I got 60,000 hours of time, then that is $3 million. $50 an hour times, 55,000 hours or 50,000 hours. Let's do 50,000. Do the math right or something like that. Yeah, let me make sure I get it right. Or 60,000 hours. I'm sorry, 60,000 hours times $50 an hour. That's that's $3 million. So I got a $3 million budget that I can apply for the next 10 years. Where am I going to put that budget? And this is where financial consciousness becomes really important. If you never understood financial consciousness in all the time that you were in this class, I want you to really get it right now. Consciousness, financially, what does that mean? Consciousness is awareness. Consciousness means I'm looking ahead. It means I'm planning. Consciousness is the one of the most fundamental aspects of investing that there is, because consciousness means I can see things from multiple perspectives. I'm aware of things. I'm connected to things, right? So I'm consciously applying this $3 million budget I have. Don't you dare let anybody tell you that you're poor. You're not poor. You just may not have any money. But if you're a healthy person and you got that 60,000 hours of free time I just told you that you have over the next decade, you got a $3 million budget that you get to spend and invest in your organization, in your entity. So consciousness would mean that we're going to go to the fundamentals of economics. What economics is the study of the allocation of scarce resources. Your time is scarce. Your time is rare. Your time is valuable. So I'm going to think about consciously how I'm going to allocate this time onto things that are truly going to serve the goal. So the first step in consciousness is to figure out what's the freaking goal? What am I trying to do? Like why am I doing this? What is this for? And the reason that I would say why is the most important question ever, because your why will drive you to do things. If whatever your why is, you got to know what your why is. Like if you say, I knew somebody, there was this really weird lady I went to grad school with. She was real smart, but so strange. And she got married when she was like 21 years old and then got divorced at 22. And I said, well, why did you get married at 21 years old? And she said, I don't know, because that's what everybody else did. That's what they told me I was supposed to do. And I was like, it's not a good reason to make the biggest choice of your life. Like like give me something better than that. But think about how many people do stuff just because everybody else is doing it. Well, they do stuff because they just think that's the next thing everyone's supposed to do. Or like they're doing some stupid TikTok challenge because everybody else is doing it. Right? And so this is where the consciousness piece comes into play. Critical thinking skill. Like, why am I doing this? And it can't be because he's doing it or she's doing it. That's a quick recipe for disaster. So you go back to financial consciousness and you go back to the fundamentals of economics, the allocation of scarce resources, also finance. Finance, one of the rules of finance is that capital, pay attention, capital must be put to its most efficient use. Capital must be put to its most efficient use. Capital must be put to its most efficient use. What does that mean? Well, what is capital? Remember, capital is you. Your time is capital. Anything that can be used to generate income or wealth or whatever is capital. You have human capital. Your time is capital. What does it mean to put it to its most efficient use? That means that I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to put it toward things that are going to give me maximum return on investment. So I go to the fundamentals of economics and finance, and I know that, okay, I'm going to study the allocation of my scarce resources, and I'm going to put it to the most efficient use possible. Therefore, I'm going to be conscious and sit and literally meditate on the things that matter to me. I'm going to pick maybe 3 or 4 things that matter to me. What matters to me? My family matters to me. My health matters to me. My wealth matters to me. So anything that does not help me achieve goals in those 3 areas, I ain't doing it. I'm not participating, sir. I don't have time for your bullshit because I did my analysis and realized that following the crowd and doing what you want me to do is not going to serve the primary objectives of this organization. Do you follow me? Do you get what I'm saying? I know Althea gets it. Althea's smart. I hope she don't mind me telling everybody that she's the granddaughter of Marcus Garvey. That's why she's such a badass black woman. I love Althea. She's amazing. So if you can't, if what you want, I get it. I understand. So circling back, I start off talking about the Charlie Kirk thing. I never had an issue with Charlie Kirk or anybody having an agenda. In fact, I would dare say his consciousness was probably pretty high. He had an agenda. He's like, okay, my goal is to get support for the Republicans and to run my organization and to build my career. And I guarantee you, Charlie Kirk's family probably has enough money that he's provided wealth for the next 2 or 3 generations by the age of 31. I ain't mad at none of that. This man did his thing the way he wanted to do it. That's an example of consciousness. And what I really saw with him was he probably looked around and said, look at all these lost people. Look at this society, this capitalist society creates so many lost souls that don't have a purpose. They're not connected to anything. Gen Zers are lost. A lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them emotionally are stuck. They're not sure who they are and what they want to do. So he went up and he just said, I'm gonna scoop up all these lost souls and give them a purpose. And the purpose is going to be linked to my agenda, which is, to do whatever I'm supposed to do to get President Trump elected. Right. And the Democrats do the same thing. And so what I think is that in my view, because you have such an important job, like your job is to really all of us together to lift our community up. I encourage you. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not into that. But I encourage you to really think about like what matters to me, what is important to me, and what 3 or 4 things matter. Don't say everything matters because then nothing matters. Pick like that top 3 or 4 things, and then just make a commitment to yourself where you say, look, if it don't lead to the bottom, if it ain't pouring into one of these 3 or 4 buckets, I'm not participating. Because if you don't know who you are, then somebody will gladly come along and tell you who you need to be. And too many of our children, I want you to think about this. Think about how many of our children grow up and nobody told them who they were. So they go around like these empty little souls looking to be accepted by anybody, and then they just end up getting pimped. That's what pimps look for. Pimps look for, they don't look for people with high self-esteem. They want people with low self-esteem. They don't look for people that have great community support. They look for people that have no support from anybody so they can be the superhero that you always wanted. They don't go after people that are confident and courageous. They go after people that are scared and timid and they say, "Oh, don't worry, girl, I'll protect you. I'll take good care of you. I'll feed you. I'll make sure that you're good." They don't look for people that are financially secure. They look for people that are insecure, that are struggling, right? So, because they're looking to acquire a valuable asset where no one else has seen the value in that asset. And so many of our children, when we abandon our children and sell them off to the white community or act like our kids don't matter, that's what we're doing. We're throwing out these lost souls into the world, then they get lost. And now you understand why I love interacting with our kids. I love being, when people have their kids and their kids are like, "Hey, Dr. Boyce, I learned from you." I'm like, this is great. I get an opportunity to help this asset see her value, his value. Your kids are valuable. Your kids are important. Everybody else is using your children to build strength and wealth in their community. And we're forgetting to do that. We're too busy going back and forth to work and doing whatever else we're doing. Consciousness. That's what it is. Consciousness, awareness. What's the goal? Where am I trying to get to? It's the mathematical technique I've told you guys about, dynamic optimization. Okay, I start at the end. I figure out where I'm trying to get to, and then at that point, the only choices that make sense are the ones that lead to the final goal. And if one of the goals is wealth, which I think I highly recommend considering that one. Again, I don't tell you what to do, but I'm the wealth guy. I can tell you this. That'll change a lot of your allocation decisions in terms of where you put your time. Working hard in itself in America does not guarantee anything. Just because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to win. You have to work consciously. What am I working hard on? I'm putting all my time into this. Where's the benefit? Where's the win? And if you can't find the win, I encourage you to sit back and think about it until you do. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go. We've been here for a little bit, so if you want to get on the text list for this class, text the word morning to the phone number 87948. So text morning to 87948. Also, you guys know we're doing the 5-year pledge. I'm asking everybody to pledge 5 years of consistent investment on behalf of your family in the stock market, things like that. To support you, you can have a free copy of a training I did on exchange traded funds. So if you text the word pledge to that same number, 87948, I will send you that training on ETFs. So text pledge to 87948. It's 5 years consistent. All you got to do is consistently invest and don't sell your assets. If you do $500 a month, like a car note, and I say 500 a month because the average car note is 500 a month, then after 5 years, you should have between 30 and $40,000. That will get you on the pathway to generational wealth. You do that 10 years, 20 years, you'll be set for life. Your family will be anyway. So that's the goal. We do this, then this is going to make a big difference. Okay. All right. And also, last but not least, my book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, in case you don't know. If you go to drboycebooks.com, use the code morning70, you can get 70% off anything in the store. Also, we've got financial flashcards and workbooks for your kids if you want to educate your kids too. And just a reminder, when we do the All Black National Convention next year, we are going to have a children's track, and we're also going to have something I call the Young Money track, which is for young adults. I've had enough 22-year-olds come up to me and say, we need more stuff. We want more stuff to do. So we're doing the Young Money track, and we're doing something for kids as well. And we're going to invest in this heavily. So if you come to the convention next year, bring your kids, bring your little nephew, bring whoever. Because the beauty of the convention that I'm so proud of, we've done this 10 years now. It's been independently funded by this. The beauty of it is that everybody that comes, they have a great time. It doesn't matter what the age is, what their background is. It's amazing. So if you go to allblacknationalconvention.com, Antoinette, you should be able to find passes. If anybody has any issues, let us know. But you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. We will be in Brooklyn. So shout out to Brooklyn and all the people that around the world that are going to come to Brooklyn. I love all of you. All right. So have a good day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening. And I will see you all tomorrow morning at 10.